Welcome into another edition of Off the Leash. I'm Ashley Holder. That's Leah Doherty, Fred Greetham of OBR, and Mark Schwab. The Browns winners against the Cincinnati Bengals. The last game of the year. This is what they needed, 20-18. I think all of us said that they were not going to win this game, but they did, which is a surprising way. They finished the season with back-to-back wins and finished 5-12 on the season. Myles Garrett was the story of the day. He did get the sack record. He broke it. He's now sits at 23. He is the sack king, according to Kevin Stefanski. But I would say the last game of the season was pretty memorable for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, as far as there's a lot of storylines, until about the 5-minute mark, you're wondering, is there any storylines, other than the Kevin Stefanski, what was going to happen there. Defense played well, but then they gave up that late long drive and got behind. But then you have Andre Schmidt, who was the GOAT in the season opener, and I don't mean the good GOAT. He missed
right.
2 kicks in why they lost to the Bengals. And since then, he's been almost flawless, and he kicks a walk-off 49-yard field goal to win the game. So you had to feel good for him. Not only did Myles get on the head and shoulders of the team, they had him on the head and shoulders. So, I mean, if Stefanski goes out, he goes out his way with back-to-back wins over the Steelers and the Bengals. Something that hasn't happened here, in a long time.
I think it was 2009. Leah and I were talking about it before the show. 2009 was the last time they closed on back-to-back wins, and they do it against divisional opponents. I was just checking as you asked the question, Ashley. I thought we had a breaking coach blurt of news. It was just Schefter reporting that the Colts will bring back their coaching
staff. Don't make us nervous like that, Mark.
But that's where we're all at right now.
Did you
right?
imagine, like, by the way, Kevin Stefanski's gone?
We are all on alert, waiting for that shoe to drop. I think a lot of us expect Stefanski to get let go, but now you have to wonder, with 2 in a row, does Browns ownership change their mind and feel like, they need to bring it back? I kind of hope not. But, today was a day. It was like the opposite of the Jets game, where they found a way to lose to a bad team because they gave up 2 big returns on special teams and lost. They won this game because the defense made 2 returns for touchdowns, right? Their offense did, as Jim Mora once put, diddly-poo nothing. They scored 6 points. Now, 3 of them came right at the end of the game, and hats off to Shedeur for leading the drive. Jerry Jeudy caught a big pass, Ashley, and they kicked the field goal to win the game. But for the most part, the offense was a dumpster fire, but the defense saved their bacon. Very weird game when you consider the sack record for Myles, the nature of the Browns scoring points, and then the whole cloud of whether or not the coach gets fired. Very strange Sunday.
Yeah, I think this game reflected the Browns season in a lot of ways. We're recording this shortly after 6 o'clock after the Browns game. So if any Kevin Stefanski news is broken, we don't know about it at this time. And if it does, we'll have another podcast for you to talk about. Yep. But the fact that you were able to have the storybook ending come full circle with Andre Schmidt in his first NFL season, a guy that lost his mom over the summer, that a lot of Browns fans after that week 1 loss to Cincinnati were saying, let's get rid of this guy, right? They made the move to go with this young kid over Dustin Hopkins. A lot of people early on were questioning it, and Kevin Stefanski said there was no doubt in our mind that he was going to nail that. So that was cool. Of course, the defense does what they've done all season. They carried this team. I mean, the Browns don't win that game if it's not for the defense. You have Myles Garrett get the sack record, which was awesome for him to see that happen. Offense was not good. That's what we've seen all season. However, Shedeur is going to get some confidence with that game-winning drive he was able to lead them on. So you saw steps in the right direction. What continued to be good, the defense, that's what won them this game. And I think that's a very fitting finish to the year for them.
Yeah, and I think when you look at just how the optics worked of going to the biggest storyline of Myles Garrett and just how he was worried just a little bit that he wasn't going to get that sack record, is what he was saying after the game. And it did not come into the 4th quarter because it has to be dramatic with Myles, right? He was putting up all these sacks, just multiple sacks in some of these games. And then you get to the end of the season and it seemed like it was kind of stagnant. You didn't know if he was going to get there, but eventually he was able to do it. It came down. He made history. Now he sits at 23. And I guess you're already wondering, okay, time for him to get ready to try and do it again and break his own record next year. But let's hear from the guys, Myles and head coach Kevin Stefanski after the game on the Sack King.
And that's history. I mean, he's the sack king. I mean, that's unbelievable. They've been playing this game for a long time, and for him to go get that in the circumstances with the degree of difficulty in which he got it this season is unbelievable. I mean, he's the defensive player of the year. You can make him the MVP if I had a vote. And I think the reaction of his teammates is genuine. That's real. These guys care about each other.
Man, it was everything I expected. And it was so tough. I knew they were going to make it difficult, but I don't think I saw more than 3 singles on a real drop back the whole game, and I just knew that if I did, I had to make that moment count. And man, the feeling couldn't be better.
Did you ever? I know how confident you were. Did you ever start to wonder about it? And there's only 5 minutes and 4 seconds left.
I think I said it earlier, but I had a dream that I didn't get it. So I was like we gotta deny fate, whatever it is. We got to make it happen. And I just went into it and still had the utmost confidence in myself and my preparation. And in my guys, man, I couldn't do it without them. They were supporting me, trying to find ways to free me up, get the chips off me, get the doubles off, and eventually, we just made it happen as we have all year.
Miles, what did it feel like when your teammates put you up on their shoulders and David's putting the fake crown on you, and just what was this whole celebration like?
It was special. I've given everything to them. They give my very best every day, and I'm so grateful and so glad to have them as teammates. It's like I said, it's a privilege to be with these guys, to go to work with these guys, to bleed, to sweat, and to cry with these guys. And it's happening a lot right now. And, man, I couldn't imagine doing it with a better group of men. Going in, always, coming in with a great attitude, working hard, and coming with a smile on their faces. And they never too high, never too low. And I'm so proud of this group.
And it's crazy because Miles said he had a dream last night, which seemed to be a nightmare, that he did not get the sack record. And he said he was all in his feelings and he was worried that he was not going to get it. And then today it comes down to the wire. But obviously that didn't happen. Guys like Micah Parsons, LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes all shouting him out, probably a lot more people. But, I mean, it's very clear to see that Miles is very respected around this league. And, I mean, his numbers, his stature, just everything, it just proves why he's so respected. I mean, he's such a good player. Like, his feet is just like poetry in motion when he's out there.
Yeah, I had another one. They're calling it the Jordan brand, so I guess this is Michael Jordan's company or whatever, but it's only right as he set the record at 23. A number synonymous with greatness, that from the Jordan brand.
He's with Jordan?
What's that?
He's with the Jordan brand?
I don't know if he is. But Jordan Brand
I'm curious.
If he wasn't, he probably
Incredible
will be now.
if he is.
If he wasn't, he is now.
We need to find out.
He's been incredible, and there's going to be a lot of talk on who he did it in 17 games. The other guys did it in 16 games. Yeah, so, all right, who cares? I don't care.
No.
I mean, if you want to keep separate stats, then fine, but people trying to say, like, well, that doesn't mean anything because he didn't. What do you mean it doesn't mean anything?
Okay, I found out he is a part of the Jordan family. So
there you go.
Makes complete sense.
There you go. Go ahead.
I just thought it was cool, too, that his parents were there, and he was giving his dad a hard time because his dad's a photographer, and his dad had that massive lens in the stands. That's what I like about athletes. They're people just like us, right? Like, everyone's parents sit there and embarrass us with, like, a big camera taking photos of us when we don't want. And he was like, I've told him he needs to stop bringing that thing. But he had a really cool moment with his parents after the game, and I know he had family and people showing up for the past couple games thinking, is this going to be the time? Is this going to be the time? And it got real dicey. It looked like it might not be, and especially when you have a dream like that would freak me out. And so, yeah, you can't say enough what he's meant to this franchise, regardless of him wanting a trade or not. Like, he has meant so much to the people here.
What a year
and now I feel like I just keep looking at this because it's kind of crazy. So he already had joined them, but they did not announce it until after he broke the sack record, which is honestly, that is phenomenal marketing
That's
to be
incredible.
at 23 in the Jordan brand, and then you announce it after that. I mean,
A+ marketing.
I mean, I think when you guys, we're in TV, like, we look at that stuff, we're like, wow, that is really good marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is incredible.
So, by the way, in the same year, that's not technically it's 2026, but in connected to the same season, Miles gets paid $40 million a year and sets the sack record. The team stinks, but that's a really good year, right? I mean,
And he sacks the coach.
Yes.
Friday, I felt like that's what he did, kind of. When everybody else had endorsed Stefanski, he says, well, we've had more downs than ups, and nothing was untrue, but, after Batonio and Ward and some of the guys. But, credit to him, as far as the record and that. I thought I almost got vibes of the Steelers, that the Bengals were kind of doing the same thing, more worried about, because they're like Ward and Campbell are out of the game. They got two guys that, unless you're covering the team like we are, I doubt if most people know who Webb and Ross were covering Higgins and Chase. And you're like, why isn't Burrow throwing the ball downfield? Now they did run successfully. But
I know they were trying to get Chase Brown 1,000 yards, which he did get late. He needed 59. He finished with 72. That was something they wanted to do, and they did run the ball effectively. But yeah, even despite that, you're like, what? Where's the bomb to Chase?
They couldn't cover him, and so so that made it even. But it just seemed like, let's just run the ball and take even on that final drive. So, it was like I had a story all written, as a lot of people did, and you're like, okay, this is going to be all trashed, other than saying he didn't get the record, when it was down to 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was just, you couldn't just do it simple. You had to put a little bit of dramatics behind it, and that is exactly what the Cleveland Browns have pretty much been all season long. But we're going to take a really quick break, and we'll be back with Mark Schwab's true or false question of the week.
Browns beat the Bengals to close out the season. They finish as a 5-win team, and as of this conversation's timing, Kevin Stefanski is still the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. A lot of talk out there whether or not that's going to change. Let's face it, a lot of people expect it to change. This week's true-false question, granted, the ladies here on the panel, a little bit of a disadvantage answering this because they've only been here for 3 seasons. He's been here for 6 years. Fred, you should have good perspective. You guys certainly still have input. You've been out there a lot. Kevin Stefanski was hired after a tumultuous season where Freddie Kitchens, frankly, embarrassed himself as the Browns head coach, along with an embarrassing season and tons of garbage that went on for years before that. Kevin Stefanski came in. They made the playoffs the first year. They won a playoff game. He coached it from the basement. He was the coach of the year right away. He won that award again. And then they had a whole lot of losing, and he absolutely never developed a quarterback. Weighing all of that through that lens, true or false, Kevin Stefanski was a good hire for the Cleveland Browns.
Fred, I feel like you should go first.
Oh, boy. Got to put it on me. At the time, I think he was a good hire. I mean, he was a steady voice that they needed, and he showed, he really had some early great success with Baker Mayfield until Baker Mayfield tried to be a tackler in the second year and dislocated his shoulder, and he tried to play through it. But then when Jacoby Brissett was in for Watson, he had his best year, and you saw that, in the 5 quarterback year, and you really saw. And then it seemed like Deshaun Watson came along and everything kind of fell apart. They tried to make it work, and so that derailed a lot in that program. And I don't know if we really know how much he had to do with that, but he was the right hire at the time. I don't know if they need a new voice or not. I mean, it's really hard to tell. I think if you're gonna, you talked about for 6 years, we got Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, joint at the hip. Well, how then do you keep one and not the other one when the guy's picking the players that he has to pull? So either they both go or they both stay, in my opinion.
Which is interesting because some of the recent reports have been that Andrew Berry likely will stay and then Kevin Stefanski will go. And then that's what we had gone back to is this great rookie class we saw, one of the heights of this season. Is that going to be what saves AB? I think I would say yes, Mark, from my limited perspective, to what Fred said, to where he brought a lot of stability when he first came in. Didn't seem like y'all had too much of that in Cleveland, just from me back in Texas looking on from afar. And so I think he brought stability. And yeah, it's just hard not to be in the gray area and make excuses and be like, oh, well, the Deshaun Watson, and the past couple years I've been here, like there hasn't been a good quarterback for him to develop. The quarterback situation has been a nightmare, from Joe Flacco and 5 different guys being played that season, and then they still find a way to make it to the playoffs. 2-time AP Coach of the Year. There's a lot of stuff you have to give him credit for, and so I think he brought good stability to this franchise, and you can't discount the fact that you win Coach of the Year twice, you take him to the playoffs twice. Like, that has to count for something, and so I think in the moment he was the right hire. I think there's a need for a shakeup right now with this team, and it might not necessarily be Kevin Stefanski's fault, but like you said, I think you either clean house or you do nothing. Like, there's got to be a big change or we don't do anything.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what you said. But I have saw a couple of reports of rumblings that there was a chance that Andrew Berry could get promoted, and then the team is also looking for another GM, and then, you have a new coach at the same time. But also, I'm always curious of what the dynamic with him and Shador was, and if they decide to stay with Shador, do they feel like he is the right person to, develop Shador? We really don't know that. I mean, we cover the team, but do we really know the ins and outs of what's going on inside of that locker room? Of course we don't. So we're going to speculate just like anyone else, and, and what we see and things like that. So I think that that's a big thing too. But I do think that he's been able to bring a lot of stability, even though me and Leah just got here, and Lord knows I didn't watch the Browns, a lick of the Browns before I took this job very much, to be honest with you. But it was always like a new head coach. It was always a new position, right? So I think it's good that you had that. You went to the playoffs twice, and you were able to have a, 2-time Coach of the Year. But like Leah said, I just think you're at the point where you kind of got to shake some things up. And who knows if Stefanski even wants to stay here? I'd be like, I'm done with this stuff. Like, I got to get out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else. If it's an OC or something like that, okay, maybe. Or maybe he gets another. They said the Giants could possibly be, interested in him as well. I don't think Stefanski, if they fire him or they decide to say, quote unquote, they part ways, I don't think that he's going to be hurting for a job. I think he's employed for like 2 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already talked to someone for all we know.
He was 37-30 before these last 2 years, and they go 8-26 in the last 2 years.
And also had no stability at quarterback either. So that's still something.
So it's like, in fairness, it's like he didn't forget what he was doing earlier. I think some things changed, and a big one is at quarterback. So
I think it's interesting, too, when you look at the past 2 seasons that Stefanski gave up play calling. I think that's telling and something interesting to me that we're not going to ever know exactly what happened there. But that's what I want to know, is like, what went wrong there? You bring him in as this like great offensive mind, great developer of quarterbacks, and then what happens that you're giving up play calling?
So I'm going to get to that. I'll only answer the question I asked first.
I'm sorry. I never
No,
even said
you're fine. It's good.
I don't even know what
Such a good talker, Mark.
It's good conversation.
I'm
going to say true, because I think you guys brought up stability. I think stability is a good way to describe it. I would take it a step further. I would say respectability. The Browns, especially with Freddie Kitchens, I don't believe Freddie Kitchens was respected as a head coach around the NFL. I don't believe Hugh Jackson was respected as a head coach by the time he was near the end of his run. I don't even know if Mike Pettin was respected as a head coach before that. Rob Chudzinski was the guy before Pettin. He was only here a year. There wasn't a lot of respectability with that. And while this franchise finds ways to lose and does stupid things, I do believe Kevin Stefanski is highly respected around the league. You mentioned a lot of teams would want him. That never happens here, where the Browns fire a guy and teams are like, let's get him in for an interview. It doesn't
Are you
happen.
telling me that people did not want Hugh Jackson?
Let's be real. Come on. So I would say, yes, that was a good hire for that reason alone. That doesn't mean it was a great hire. It doesn't mean it was the best hire. But I don't think you could call it a bad hire after what he brought to the table initially and how he's been stable and things like that. And you were talking about play calling. I want to go back to a point. Eric Metcalf brought this up 2 Sundays ago on Tailgate. And honestly, it was phrased a way I have never heard it before, but I thought it was a valid point. He said he felt like Stefanski quit on the team, not because he gave it up once, but because he gave it up twice. If he gave it up once last year, and then just said, you know what, and he said it under the context of, I'm going to see if this is better for the club. But then he took it back and gave it up again. And it almost looks like, well, if the chips are down and the season's over, I'm going to let you guys call plays. But I want to do it if we're still in this thing. Now, maybe that's not the way the players saw it, and maybe that's not really the motivation. But I could at least see that viewpoint from somebody else saying, what are you doing? If you give it up once, it's one thing. To do it twice, back-to-back years, I would like some more answers on that. And I don't know if we'll ever get it. Because it does look silly to do it 2 years in a row.
Or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just think I like to view it from the perspective of like we're doing anything we can, throwing anything against the wall and seeing what will stick, and that's my job as head coach. Is like maybe I'm doing something wrong. So like I'm humble enough to be like, you know what, maybe someone else is better at this than me, and less of like Kevin Stefanski. I don't know. I just like to think that he wouldn't.
I want to
be given up.
Point out a tweet. Fred's here from OBR. You got another guy on the staff there, Pete Smith. I've never met Pete, but I've talked to him several times through Twitter. I feel like we've had conversations.
You feel like you're friends.
I could talk to Pete a little bit. And he had the tweet 2 hours ago. Pete's got a pretty interesting perspective on things. The Browns have made some intergalactically stupid moves. Firing Kevin Stefanski would be near the top of the list. So there are backers out there still for Kevin Stefanski.
And
Pete knows a thing or two also.
Right. And we're still at the point where it's going to be just completely guessing and guessing. Again, like Leah said, we're recording this a couple, minutes, hours after the game, and we'll find out on Monday possibly, what they're going to do. But we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to not look ahead at the schedule, but, what's to come possibly. All right, so the Browns wrapping up the season 5-12. One thing that I will say that I'm looking forward to is what they are going to do with Shedeur Sanders. I want to see if this is going to be the guy they're saying, we're going to stick with him. We're not going to go out and get another quarterback. We don't really know where they're choosing, but again, they have some picks that they could get another QB with, right? But I feel like Shedeur has been able to show that, this could be the guy. Work with them, develop them, see really what you have in them. Lord, please just let Dylan Gabriel go, because it's just not working out for him. And I feel like if he even touches that field, everyone's just going to go crazy. But I would love to see, is he the guy and Deshaun backs him up, or they put Deshaun back in front and Shedeur backs him up? I don't know.
What do you think, Fred?
Or anything you guys like for the season, or you can go on that.
I think Shedeur partly played himself, not so much by his play, but 2 wins put them out of range for competition. By most draft guys, they're grading Mendoza and Moore as first-round grades, meaning guys that you would trade up to get. And at 7, you're probably not going to get there.
Nope. You mentioned quarterback, the 2 big ones. Coach is first. We'll find out a little more in the following hours and days, and then if they need to hire a guy, it's over the following weeks. Quarterback and draft, those are synonymous for the reasons Fred just pointed out. We're going to have a lot of – should they try to trade up? Can they trade up? We don't know. There's quarterback-needy teams ahead of them. Browns currently picking 7th. If Washington loses to Philadelphia, they will hold at 7. If Washington wins, the Browns move up to 6. Coach, quarterback, it's what we're always talking about in Cleveland, no different this offseason.
I could see them sticking with Shedeur, but I think they would start Deshaun over him just for the
Ooh.
chaos of it all is what I'm going to say. I don't think Shedeur showed us anything that was like, wow, he's the future of the franchise. So you're spending all this money on Deshaun. Stick him out there.
Hey.
See what you got.
The people love Shedeur Sanders. Perfect
Both
time
of them,
here.
the fan it would be
Like
chaos.
the Pro Bowl year.
Well, all right, so the Browns wrap up the season 5-12. Hey, Lisa was 5 wins, 2 better than last year. Got to be happy about that. Guys, another episode of Off the Leash. This is probably not the end of the podcast. We'll have plenty of more to come, especially if the Browns fire head coach Kevin Stefanski. Make sure you check out Cleveland 19 for your latest episode or any updates of when we knock out another episode. For Ashley Holder, Leah Doherty, Mark Schwab, and OBR's Fred Greetham, this is Off the Leash, closing the season 5-12.